All right, Chanakya.
Yes, Subhash.
I guess we have a good amount of attendance already,
Right.
36, and I'm sure there will be many more joining as we progress.
Definitely, yes.
Yeah, perfect. So I guess we should commence. Do we have anyone from Reddington here?
um,
I guess no.
not that I see, no.
Yeah, not that I know of as well. Okay, so
Okay.
let's kick off and yeah, I guess Nisar is there. Yeah, perfect. I see his
Yeah.
name. Perfect. Yeah, hi
Okay.
Nisar. Yeah, perfect. So let's kick off and keep it on the air. Yeah, perfect. Thank you.
Okay, Subhash. Over to you.
All right, guys. My name is Subhash Sharma. I'm the speaker for the day for the modern workplace, envisioning security and EMS. Uh, I'm the cloud advisor with Reddington for Microsoft Azure and the M365. The reason of this engagement today is to talk about the offerings that Microsoft has to deliver as software as service when we talk about the EMS, that is enterprise mobility security with M365. While we progress, if you guys have any questions, please put it on the chat window. I'll be happy to address them all at the end of the Q&A round. And if you have any further engagement, kind of a technical deep dive on any of the topic that has fascinated to you while we talk, I'll be happy to engage the next time and we'll take it from there. Guys, what is modern workplace? All right, the word seems simple. Microsoft is actually emphasizing on that word modern workplace, kind of a flagship thing. All right, to me, all right, that I want to actually talk about what modern workplace is. It's nothing but uh, it encompasses Windows 10 along with some security, compliance, and business management tools, and that is what exactly we're going to actually look and talk about. Over the period of time, the way IT infra has worked on a traditional on-prem environment has now been changed to something called a software as service, right? And that is what is the need of the hour for the business to understand from its stakeholder perspective and from the platform that they're gonna pick to move their workloads into the cloud. When we talk about the EMS, okay, as I mentioned, it encompasses your identity, it encompasses your data, your platform, and all that stuff. But then we also need to understand about the collaboration. Let me put it down this way, all right? The modern workplace, when I see it, it looks to me as kind of a three broad category, kind of productivity development, collaboration, business management tool, security, and compliance. Now, when we talk about collaboration, we also tell you that it is very seamless and efficient and effective. When I talk about it as seamless, efficient, and effective, I want to put it this way. Now, back in the old days, when we were talking about the right management system that comes from the Microsoft Information Protection family, exchanging information was pretty simple, but then I actually had a tough time for the engineers, the analysts, to ensure the credibility of the document that would only be used by the legitimate person who is actually using it. All right. So the collaborating tool that we have with EMS, as we all know, is Teams that are we connected today, and again, kind of in video conferencing as well with Zoho. Right. This is such kind of collaborating tools ensure that you exchange your files between your peers seamlessly and effective. No, back in the old day, all right. Now I'm talking to you, all right. At the same time, I'm actually checking my phone, my email, and I'm writing an email on my another phone as well. And that is what one device unified identity that gives you the uh, comfort to ex access your data at anywhere at any time with ease of access, and also it ensure that the security of the document is with the company goal as well. Let us talk about what is the traditional on-prem activity, Active Directory, and the cloud-based identity solution management. That is nothing but the Azure Active Directory. Now, when we talk about the traditional Active Directory, the native Active Directory has a lot of offerings along with security, as we all know. But then here we actually understand and talk about what exactly is the cloud-based solution has to offer. The functionality of the Active Directory remains the same. It is nothing but the identity store that stores your username and password, which is also the same job of the cloud-based identity. But then it is different from the traditional environment. How it is different, and that is what we're going to talk about. Well, if I look at this way, all right, it has become kind of an hybrid environment now. Okay, we all want to have our on-prem environment to be there as we migrate to the cloud and ensure that we have a communication exchange between on-prem and the cloud-based identity. Let us actually talk about for a quick minute here and understand the basic need of the hour when it comes to the management of such environment. When we talk about the traditional management, okay, we all know managing the identity, that is your UPN, user principal name, that's your username and password, that gets stored in the Active Directory as in the form of objects. And if you were having some asset to be managed, what would you do? You would actually have some sort of a group management, as in the group policy management in place, and ensure those devices are secured by the policies defined by the IT administrator. How it is different over the cloud? It is nothing but the application modernization. When we talk about software as service, it has given the liberty to the administrator to have the full control over its deployment, over its patch management, over its permission, how it could be deployed in the environment. Now, when we talk about application modernization, we also need to understand how these applications are being authenticated with our cloud-based solution, that is application registration, okay, which is now the future of the industry. You do have the liberty of your applications to be registered over the cloud with Azure Active Directory and be authenticated, so that the user, once they sign on, using the single sign-on functionality, they can use your applications seamlessly without any trouble. However, the authentication mechanism with Azure Active Directory is different than we have on the traditional native environment, like LDAP and Kerberos be the key player for authenticating your on-prem environment. Then over the cloud, you have OAuth and SAML and so on and so forth. Guys, one thing we actually need to understand here, okay, when we talk about identity over the cloud and the application modernization, we have three major aspects to it. All right, first, your identity, that is on-prem. Identity is nothing but, as you know, the username and password. All right, and you have the cloud-based identity and the federated identity. The cloud-based identity, okay, is nothing but your hybrid identity, which is synced from your on-prem environment to your cloud using the Azure AD Connect. That gives you seamless access to all your apps that are published over the web, that is using the application registration and so on and so forth. The best part about this app modernization, we all know there is a trend of virtualizing our own environment, and that is nothing but it comes from this modern era, I would say, and there's nothing but the Windows Virtual Desktop, okay, that helps you publish your app and ensure that the underlying hardware maintenance and its management is all with Microsoft. We don't have to worry about it when it comes from the native environment of RDS and terminal server, where all the management was done by you guys. Yeah. When we talk about the VDI environment, okay. Now, if somebody would be thinking about managing of this workload over the cloud, how it could be done. It could be done by moving on to your Azure environment. At the same time, it can be uh, leveraged using the software as service, those applications that are published using software as service, and its maintenance is done pretty easily and from the centralized management desk. Maybe you have the control using modern device management, so on and so forth policies. Now, uh, Microsoft ecosystem is pretty robust and versatile, as we all know. One size fits all is no more the mantra of the business, and it becomes pretty daunting and tedious sometimes to manage such requests. So it is always recommended to understand the business requirement before we choose a solution or before we propose a platform to our business community. And that is what exactly we will be talking about now when it comes to empowering enterprise mobility. Now, the mobility is the new normal. Mobility is the new normal. When I say the mobility is the new normal, it is again coming from the same business concept that the key player of this agenda would be your nothing but the identity, the data management, the app management, device management, and the management of your infrastructure as well. So with this, when you understand that the EMS suite, which is revolving around the four major elements, the business trend has grown. All right. 52% of information workers across 17 countries report using three or more devices for work. Sure, the numbers are increasing as time passes by. Okay. While I'm talking to you, I'm on my laptop, which is present in this session. I'm also accessing my phone, all right, and I have another laptop where my identity has been keyed in. So with this unified platform, it gives you ease of access to ensure your productivity is efficient. At the same time, it is a thought that worries the administrator of the business to be compliant as much as he could per the business rules. And what exactly is he's after? Well, the business is after to ensure that the users, devices, apps, data, and the IT, when I talk about the IT, I mean the infrastructure as service, or maybe the network or the entire perimeter itself. Those are the four, five, I would say four broad categories where our focus should be at the topmost priority to ensure, because that is exactly what the EMS is all about. The username and passwords are actually traveling as the user change the device. All right, it is not that it comes from the traditional environment where the user will come into office, maybe the first line worker will come into the office, sign on to the desktop, and where all the policies will be pushed from the corporate service, and thus that device will be complained. The time has changed now. The users are mobile. It is on the fleet where we also need to understand how the fleet workers' devices will be secure. Let us see how that can be done. Well, when we talk about the management of devices, the only thing that comes to me in my mind is nothing but the mobile device management services offered by Microsoft EMS, that is the Intune, okay, that can help you to differentiate the workspace and the private space. That gives the confidence for the user that the data lies in their own different segments profile, and then ensure that it also gives confidence to the business that what they actually want to have as per the business goal, that the data of the corporate be in the corporate environment only. Let us see what are the various I would say the protocols that one can leverage to achieve such goals, to safeguard the identity, safeguard the app devices and the infra. Now, the mobile device application management, there's nothing but the Intune that will help you, that will be your best friend to safeguard the asset. And then you have the AIP, Access and Information Protection. That was, again, the part of the RMS, Microsoft Information Protection family. Desktop virtualization. What are we talking about? Desktop virtualization it purely means the virtualization of your workload itself. That is nothing but the WVD solution by Microsoft. Hybrid identity. Well, it is nothing but moving your on-prem objects to the cloud using the Azure AD Sync, AD Connect, and ensure that there is a hybrid environment that you can leverage best of the both worlds. The Microsoft solution is different. Yeah, it is, because one size fits nobody's goal, because now it has become people centric. Office apps are now managed over the cloud. It is kind of a layered approach when it comes to length and breadth of the security and the defense. Uh, as we progress onto this EMS suite, all right, this is what I actually want to talk about. Using this concept of bring your own device model, the users have gained the more I would say, well, when using this bring your own device model, the users are actually now more worried about their data being compromised, or maybe they have a worry that the data, I mean, the corporate will have access to your own data. But then it is now simplified using this MDM technologies, okay, that will ensure that the productivity apps, as I mentioned earlier, to me, EMS looks into the broader category of production. Uh, Efficient and collaboration. It from the 50,000-foot view. Okay, when we talk about the productivity management, we are talking about the access of Word, file, document, email. It has now become simplified. Using conditional access to corporate resources will give more side of relief to the ID administrator or the security analyst, because they now have the visibility of the data that has been shared to the end user community, and that all can be managed from the centralized managed uh, dashboard that is nothing but cloud app security. Now, the services or the tools that are we talking about are nothing but the business management tools. Okay, that is part of your enterprise subscription, E3 or E5 for that fact. Well, one user, one identity everywhere has been the mantra of the business, that you can access anything anywhere from any platform. All you need is a device that has the internet connection, and boom, you have your access to your corporate needs. As we progress, or as we have been known now, that the AMS is also focusing on the desktop virtualization platform. When we talk about the session-based computing or the VDI environment that comes from the native on-prem environment, we all know how tedious and daunting it is to actually manage the RDS environment. You should have that highly available environment, maybe in the RDS connection broker that all do the job of getting the host full session to be active, to be presented to the users. When we talk about the license management, it is also uh, pretty daunting, okay? Because the management of licensing when from the RDS environment is you need to have licenses for your user, per user licenses for the environment, and then you should have the license for your operating system, and then for the RDS itself. Well, it is actually contributing, that solution is contributing more towards the investment and the expenditure of the on-prem. However, over the EMS, when it comes to the desktop virtualization, you have something called as desktop as service with WVD. That gives you from best of the both world. The licensing is done with the subscription itself, and then you have the Windows 10 Enterprise client-based virtualization that can achieve your VDI goal. When we're talking about the VDI, it will certainly give you the same experience that you have from your traditional and other VDI solution, that your apps are published over uh, the web, that you can access using the HTTP or the secure 443 protocol. And when we talk about the management of the WVD or any virtual environment, for the fact, we understand that it is all actually managed by the Microsoft now, all right? Because when we talk about cloud, when we talk about the deployment model or the categories of solution that we select, like your infrastructure as service, platform as service, or software as service, we do not have to worry about the underlying hardware now. It's all managed by Microsoft. So with this, all right, when we come to maybe a good discussion of the enterprise mobility suite, which revolves around the identity, mobile device application management, access and information. For somebody who want to deep dive on hybrid identity, they could always ensure and see what the Azure Active Directory services has to offer. It has two different variants: Azure Active Directory P1, Plan 1, Premium 1, P2, Plan 1, I mean Plan 2, Premium 2. Well, with P1, you have all your baseline services from your security perspective available. With E3, E5 will actually add some additional layer of security like risk analysis and patterns and behavior that will give you a complete security for your environment. And that makes you future proof when we talk about the security as a whole. Well, this makes your life more simpler. Okay. Identity and access management, you have Azure Active Directory, P1, P2. Advanced threat analytics, again, a premium offering that will actually ensure your on-prem environment has been taken care of from the centralized management. Mobile device management is nothing but the Microsoft Intune, uh, Azure Information Protection, part of your RMS family, and that's all managed and visible from a central point of desk that is from the Cloud App Security Portal, and that is nothing but your CASB. The mobile productivity challenge from the user's expectations and from the business expectation is kind of a discussion that is there from good long time, because we're moving from the traditional facility on premises um, governance to the cloud-based entity. Now, as I mentioned earlier, right, since we all are actually working from home and the business goal remains the same, that the data should always be in the corporate environment rather than the user storing it on their personal storage. So how this goals could be achieved? Like there you have the conditional accesses that can ensure that only permit and deny are given to somebody who should actually have permission over. Let us quickly talk about the deployment of your security scenarios. All right. For someone who just wants to protect data on files, apps, and devices, what should be the prerequisite or the checklist? There they are. Azure Active Directory, Intune, Cloud App Security. Azure Active Directory is your identity-based management. Intune again is your MDM. Cloud App Security is your security portal that will give you the visibility of your environment that helps you identify risk and mitigate. Azure Information Protection, that is coming from the rights management family, as I mentioned earlier, that can only ensure you classify the data basis the severity. And then in the Office Press, for someone who just wants to detect and protect, same thing again, you have Windows Defender ATP that acts as your uh, threat protection manager, I would say. And then protect your user and their user account. You have same thing coming from the Azure Active Directory, Intune, CASB, and then to add it more, kind of an icing on the cake, you have conditional access. When it comes to the management of the productivity, it only things to me the way that we are actually functioning. Okay, our identity are managed by uh, the Azure Active Directory, and then our devices are actually managed by Intune, and then our applications are also managed by maybe using the Azure Active Directory app registration, where you can register your app and have that app be authenticated using your identities through single sign-on, and the data management. Now, something pretty interesting that is there from the offering of EMS, that is conditional accesses. You deny this kinds of work like an ACL, access control list. You define a policy, push it onto the scope of the user, okay, that will only limit the access that is defined in the policy and configure. For someone, let us give an example. A user is accessing a data or device using Windows 10, and if there's a policy verification in the Intune that only verifies and validate that XYZ user should access the Office 365 apps, they will certainly have the permission. And if there is a deny rule for any of the apps, for any of the platform, maybe Mac OS or the Windows or the Android, then the person will not be able to, and that gets all logged for you to identify the pattern of, and that makes your life for the auditor easy as well. Now, we all know this Intune makes your life easy to manage the corporate applications as well. At the same time, we also ensure that your goal of having those applications managed in your workspace stays there where it actually wants to, and defines a different workspace for your personal apps itself. Now, the managed applications actually can be pushed from the Intune, as I mentioned earlier, and the corporate data stays where the ID administrator wants the data to be. Let us talk about a quick example how this could be achieved. For some user, right, maybe an email attachment has been forwarded, or someone wants to just exchange a piece of information via email, right? And a nasty user tries and copies that data onto the Excel on a personal app. No, that's not allowed. He tried to be smart and see that can be copied and pasted onto some other productivity app, maybe your Word. Well, that's allowed, but however, storing the same onto the personal storage is not allowed. No luck. What exactly is allowed then? The allow policy defined by that app itself will only ensure that the user can store the data where the administrator wants the user to actually store the data. So this gives the complete insight and control to the management to ensure that the data is in their own security and governance. It adds nothing but it is all about adding up multiple layers of protection for your identity. As I mentioned earlier, you can leverage the Azure AD P1 or P2 or any of the both. And maybe for your device management, you can have your Intune that applies policies. And for the RMS, you have the Azure ADP as well. That will also ensure that the perimeter has been secured by using all this layers of security. When we talk about the EMS, okay, and we talk about the ATP, that is Advanced Threat Protection, is now the Microsoft Defender ATP. The Defender, like I said, the purpose of the Defender is to defend from the malicious attack and ensure that the internal applications are secured in an environment which is hosted over the cloud as software service. You now have the power to ensure that you have the visibility on the threat and the vulnerability. You can reduce the attack surface uh, reduction by ensuring that there are no loops in the apps itself. That gives you more visibility and control nowadays. That comes with the Office 365 plans and with E3 in E5. You just have to do a comparison what suits your business need, and then you pick it up accordingly. You also have the ability now to restore retire device from the portal itself. You do have it in past with the various other MDMs that the administrator can actually ensure whenever a user wants to retire, remove the device from the Intune, provide the device back to the user, replace the device you have warranty, and if in a case where there's a theft, that the theft can be reported to the IT administrator and the wipe can be done if the device has been stolen. Now let us talk about the security model when it comes to the exchanging of email, which is of the most important key, all right, from the good long time. Now, we all know that we have a lot of applications that can actually ensure that our spam filter is protected. When we talk about spam filter, maybe spamming our mailboxes or compromising our user's identity, that can spoof the identity and masquerade and send some malicious email, and that can actually bring down the entire environment. With Microsoft security model, all right, everything now can be traced, checked, and the pattern of attack could be learned and safeguarded using the ATP, that is Azure, Advanced Threat Protection, that collects the information. With that information, you can analyze and learn. That also detects the abnormal behavior and suspicious activity, and then gives you alert, and thus you have the chance to investigate. It acts more of like kind of an IDS and the IPS appliance. Now, as we progress with this security measure, I just can't miss to talk about the Azure Information Protection. Basically, the job of the Azure Information Protection, I would say the function, all right, is to actually help you classify the severity of the data, flag it, and lock it. It is more crucial for environment like banking, security, and somebody who's actually exchanging pretty confidential data using this RMS service from the family of MIP, that's Microsoft Information Protection. You can ensure that there are security at every layer of the data that is moved across your environment. Labeling can be done automatically. Okay, there are also in built policies that one can use. Okay, maybe if you guys have noticed or have encountered or tested it by your own means, you can label a policy. Okay, identify what needs to be secure and ensure that the scope has been applied to the policy. Once that is done, you would then actually see the action when you send that file to somebody who is not of the same category of permission. That person will not be able to encrypt, unlock, or retrieve the data. And trust me, it is so good, all right, that it will first, okay, I have done it on my experience on an Adobe application by exchanging the file using this AIP. The first thing that will prompt you and notify that this file is logged by XYZ policy and protocol, and then you only need to have that add-in in place first to retrieve it. Thus, it gives you the confirmation that the file that you have exchanged now is actually secure. Well, the bulk classification can be also done from the traditional Windows Server file classification infrastructure. The scanner is installed on a Windows server with access to the on-prem environment containing the file share and SharePoint libraries to label. This gives you a pretty much security for the data at rest or the data in transit, and then you have the full control of the permission that the data is moved in environment, maybe internally or externally. Introducing Microsoft Cloud App Security, it is nothing but a portal that gives you a complete visibility of your environment, and then you have the control to ensure how the traffic has been observed in your environment. It's kind of in a dashboard utility, I would say, that helps you identify the risk and then take preventive measure. Now, let me put it this way, all right? When I was actually managing an on-prem environment back in the good old days, maybe a decade ago, all right, was 5 years plus, we used to have a third-party management tool, all right? Managing or bringing into a third-party tool into environment means nothing but a kind of opening a port in our own environment to ensure that we have something that we've owned from a third-party vendor. However, the time has changed, all right? And with EMS, you do not have to invite any third-party vendor for dashboard management or any sort of that goal. everything can be done from within the portal itself, and that makes you more comfortable that you have no third party intervention in your environment. Microsoft Cloud App Security, mentioned you earlier, discover and access risk, control access in real time, protect your information, and help you detect threats. To add more icing on the cake, okay, you also have something called data loss prevention policy to protect documents with file classification. Well, in Office 365 or the software as service environment, you can use a DLP policy to identify, monitor, protect sensitive information. You can also create a DLP policy in Office 365 that recognizes the property. It is, again, as I mentioned earlier, the purpose of ensuring this security in place is to only ensure that the data is secure, guys. With this, I think we actually come to an end of the session, but then this is the last part that I just want to talk about. You have the liberty now to select where you want to protect your data. That actually helps you uh, ensure that you can actually have your online services like Exchange, email, SharePoint sales, and OneDrive documents, or the SharePoint sites, I mean, yeah, that can be encrypted with the DLP policies. Ah, we still have some amount of time, and maybe we can spend that on Q&A. At the same time, I want you, I mean, yeah, let's actually go ahead and browse the portal that I can show it to you for the cloud app security that was just talking about, that gives you the central point of visibility for the management. And if you guys have any questions, please feel free to ask, and I'll be happy to address them all now.
Hey Subhash, yes, I'm right here.
Right, seems like audience is pretty much comfortable with the topic, and I'm done with this Q&A as well. There are no questions in the parking lot for now to be answered.
All right.
Uh, yeah, you guys have my email address on the screen. Then if you want to make a note of it, I'll be happy to connect the next time. All feedbacks are appreciated, guys. Please voice out. That will only help us to be more effective in our next engagement. So I'll get back to you, buddy. And if
All
there
right. Thank you
are
so much,
no
Subhash, for the wonderful
questions,
session, and thank you so much for your time. I want to thank you everyone for joining the session and hope it was fruitful. And like Subhash has already shared his details, please feel free to reach out to him. And I think with that we conclude. Thank you so much, Subhash. Thank you.
right. Thank you for coming in today. Have a good day and stay safe wherever you are. Bye bye.